This news story talks about new census data that has revealed 700,000 people have abandoned California in 2 years. Now, before you get on your high horse, folks, for all of those that live in free America, because I live in the state of California, probably the least freest nation in the freaking union, don't get upset when you see a Californian necessarily come into your state. Some of the time, you guys, you should be really glad that you have a Californian come into your state, and I'll tell you why in just one moment. Nearly 750,000 people have left California in a 2-year period, which is just crazy. I mean, that is literally a mass exodus. According to the most recent census data, California's population rather, has dropped more than 500,000 between April 2020 and July 2022, with nearly 700,000 residents leaving the state. Nearly half of the state's population loss is attributed to Los Angeles, one of California's largest cities. You want to know why? Is because you have a massive homeless population. A quarter of the country's homeless population lives in one county in the United States. 25% of literally the entire United States homeless population is in one county, not one state, one county, you guys. That's why. And I was recently at Pantages Theater, and the homeless area is it's unbelievable. In Pantages, for anybody that wants to know, is kind of in the touristy area of Los Angeles. It's off of Hollywood Boulevard, where they basically do the Oscars. They do massive amounts of celebrity stuff there. And there's encampments there, meaning like there's just tents. There's people that have full on like roofing. They have full on like walls, buildings for homeless people that just had been made out of wood and stuff like that. I've seen actually photos of literally entire like little huts that are with walls made of wood and a roofing that have like actual security camera, and they're stealing electricity from the local building to run the security camera on the side of the street on the curb. It is mind-blowing what's going on here. The air quality was so bad, I'm not even exaggerating, that I was sitting in the Pantages Theater after walking around Hollywood Boulevard, observing literally people doing drugs on the street. There was people like keeled over doing the fentanyl crawl, just homeless people literally just laying on the Hollywood Walk of Stars, just smoking, people pushing like empty wheelchairs, wearing like medical garb that you would be if you were a patient. If you wanted like a reality of it, the best analogy that I can give, and I'm not exaggerating this one bit or trying to hype it up, think about like an apocalypse, but with like mental asylum people walking around. And I'm not trying to belittle the homeless people, but that's the best way I can picture it. If you had to create like an imagery in your mind, think of like apocalypse with homeless people, some of them partially naked, pushing wheelchairs, talking to themselves, hairs everywhere, dirty. It smells terrible. There's drugs on the ground in the most touristy of areas, folks. And the air quality was so bad after an hour of walking around. I was sitting in Pantages for a show, because I love musicals and Broadway and stuff. And I'm sitting there going like, I can still smell the air in here, and it's still bad. And you want to know what it was? It was me. The air quality was so bad in Los Angeles. It smelled so bad like human feces and waste. I can't even describe it to you. It doesn't smell like poop or anything like that, or fecal matter. It's an oddball smell, and it was stuck on me. That's how bad the air quality was. I had never gotten home so quick and stripped off all my clothes and showered than that. It's just crazy. So people are flocking out of Los Angeles because of that. And I would like to share that story with you. I've really thought about just hopping in the car and going up there, because it's about a 35-hour drive depending on traffic, and kind of showing you guys behind the scenes and what stuff looks like in LA. It's just terrible. Quote, "There's a fast, clear, and sharp spike during the pandemic," said Paul Ong, director of the Center for Neighborhood Knowledge at UCLA, of the net population loss in Los Angeles. Ong attributed the exodus from California, or Los Angeles rather, to a number of reasons, including increased housing prices, which is true, and working remotely. He also said that because of the pandemic, people moved away from the denser urban core where COVID-19 risk was perceived as being higher. Well, it's interesting they're talking about just about COVID, and there definitely is truth to that. But again, leaving out the homeless issue, as well as leaving out the crime issue, as well as leaving out the fact that California sucks at everything and it's ran by Democrats, and everybody's so fed up with it, including Democrats, that they're leaving. According to the State Department of Finance, California lost about 211,000 people in 1 year. Nearly half of that was from Los Angeles County. Records show Los Angeles lost around 160,000 people the previous year. This trend follows a pattern of population decline in California over several years, with the COVID pandemic exacerbating the situation, which is true. I mean, the lockdown stuff was just freaking crazy. The governor of California literally locked down the entire state and people couldn't open up their businesses. All the while, that a-hole was sitting there eating freaking lunch at, I think it was called the French Market or something. There was a restaurant called something like that, like the French Market or something. And he was just eating with all his wealthy buddies. So everybody else was getting screwed while he's having a freaking good old time going out. So again, the trend continues. The decline in population in California is second only to that of New York. Interesting. What do they have in common? Oh, they're both Democrat-ran states. Perfect. Which lost approximately 15,000 more people. However, net immigration out of California is higher than any other state, with New York being the second highest. Experts attributed the exodus to the state's high cost of living, which again is true, especially when it comes to housing, as well as long commutes and overcrowding in urban areas. So what should take me about 25, 30 minutes to get to downtown LA is about an hour and a half, to put it in perspective. When I used to work in Burbank, there were some days it would take me about 3 hours to get home from work. That's not a joke. That is a real number, by the way. So it took me anywhere from 2 hours to 3 hours just to get home, to travel about 30, 32 miles. Population, crime, and overcrowding has been listed as reasons why people are leaving the state. In addition, homeless encampments, which I referred to already, in Los Angeles has become increasingly burdensome on residents. In December 2022, newly elected Mayor Karen Bass, who I've actually seen speak in person, she sucks at her job too, officially declared a state of emergency over the city's homeless crisis. So what's she going to do? She's just going to give them houses. And some of these houses, like if you were to look at the boxes that go on our big rigs to transport goods and goods all across the United States, they want to transfer and convert those into kind of affordable housing at a cost of anywhere from like $500,000 to $750,000 per one. Yeah, you heard me correctly. One unit is going to cost $500,000 to $750,000 per unit for a homeless person to live in. Basically, probably free of charge. There's also cases where literally they're just giving homeless people $600,000 just to be there. I mean, beachfront property with a tent, you look at Venice or anywhere else, I live on the coastal areas, they're literally just giving them cell phones, food, $600 just to live out there. It's so mind-blowing, you guys. They're literally giving them stations to do drugs, by the way. They're offering them free syringes and places to literally do drugs. This is how crazy the state is, and they can't fathom why people are leaving. They can't fathom it. The data shows that while California population shrinks, other states have seen population growth. States such as Utah have cautioned Californians about moving to their state. Governor Spencer Cox of Utah said last week that California should stay in California. Now, here's the thing. This is the part I want to bring up. I agree with you to some extent. But one thing is, if you have a Republican leaving the state of California, you guys, statistically, and I can't think of the study off the top of my head right now, the study showed, or does show, that Republican Californians are more Republican and conservative than almost any other demographic of Republicans in other states. So if you have a Republican leaving the state of California, you should welcome them with open arms, because odds are they're more conservative Republican than you are. And they're more likely to vote for your rights, your freedom of speech, your right to have the Second Amendment, your right to bear arms, than actuality of other Republicans and conservatives would in your area. So just be careful of that. Now, if you have a Democrat or a leftist coming from California to your state, I'm sorry, folks. I'm real sorry. But you should open up a conservative Republican with open arms and invite them into your house and give them some love, because like I said, odds are, statistically, they are more Republican than probably you are, or conservative. Texas and Florida experienced the highest surge of population between April 2020 and July 2020, with approximately 884,000 and 707,000 people joining their respective states. I've thought about getting out of the state of California because it's terrible, but I want to make sure I do it right, folks. Mostly because, one, the state's going down the drain. It's expensive to live here. You have the income tax of the state just through the roof. We're one of the highest tax states in the union. I think Pennsylvania beats us out in some areas, but it's going down the drain. You got to love the fact that there's these Democrats here that still vote for the same policies, and they're okay with living in this, clearly, because they still vote Democrat. I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Bald Brad Show. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all our future content.